Hello and welcome to the very first episode of The Illicit Feminine. I am your host, Elizabeth Marth, and I am so excited to be with my dear friend, Jessica Matthews. Jessica and I have been friends for 10 years now, at least.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah. And friends, colleagues, we have trained in shadow work together. We've done different emotional and spiritual growth work together. And I'm so excited to have you on today as my first guest on The Illicit Feminine. Jessica, I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself. She is a woman of many talents, and we are going to, because we know each other so well, we're going to try and funnel down today's topic of conversation, but I'm hoping to have Jessica back on many more episodes so that we can dive into so many subjects that are important and dear to our hearts. We also have been recording for our own YouTube channel on women and shame and liberating different emotional barriers within shame. So we'll look forward to that being launched soon as well, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
super excited about that.
Jessica, I would love for you to tell our guests a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, okay. So I'm 40. I'm divorced and single. I don't have any kids. My divorce was final in 2020. And I've had one long-term relationship between, but I've been living the single life for the last couple of years. And it's been pretty fun for me to explore being self-employed. I've had a couple of different businesses, and now I'm actually launching a public speaking business. And I have a coaching business, a life coaching type business, helping people with emotional growth and really just being able to give tools and sharing my own experience and journey to self-empowerment and living a more liberated, authentic life. And I guess that's like kind of a nutshell, sort of. I live in Rockford. I'm born and raised here. Outside of 1 year, I lived in Des Moines, but I've lived here all my life. And yeah, life is good.
Well, you are one of my favorite humans. Jessica is constant inspiration to me and just such a great person to grow with. And I'm so grateful for our journey. And I'm so grateful to have walked some of your journey with you because it has been a real and raw and just truth telling journey. And you have walked it with such strength and courage. And so I'm really excited. Seems like such a strange word in these circumstances, but I'm excited because you're such an energy of empowerment and embodiment, and just to share your story with women who need to hear it. I believe that's how we learn, is through other women's stories, and that's how we grow, and that's how we feel the support. We're not alone. There's nobody out there that is alone, and there's nobody out there whose story is too big, too shameful, too proud, too fabulous, too not fabulous for every story to be honored.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Of course. Having said that, why don't we start? When did your journey, I always think this is like our awakening, right?
Yeah.
When did life change for you? Like, when did you,
When did life pull the rug out from under me? Oh,
right there.
yes. It's like the breakdown that leads to the breakthrough. Yeah. So I would say 2015 was the year. So it's been 10 years.
Okay.
And there had been things leading up to that year and the moments that were just a punch to the gut. And how is this, what's going to even happen? Like, where it's that moment of, it's never going to be the same again. Like, life as I've known it is never going to be the same again. It was that kind of a moment. And so I guess to give a little bit of backstory on my journey. So I grew up in a really loving, just amazing home, parents that love me, siblings that, even though we probably wanted to kill each other at some moments, like we loved each other. It was a great family, but we also were really immersed in ministry and in church. And so there was a lot of what I can call it now. I didn't see it then. I didn't know it then, but there was a lot of like religious dogma. And it's been a process for me to call it trauma because of just how much it was a part of my foundation. But there were elements of trauma with that, being in that world. And it was in the foundation of the religious dogma of things that shaped my belief system, right? And the things that are right and wrong. And just living in like this duality world of like always wanting to do the right thing and being so afraid of doing the wrong thing and of making mistakes. And so that was always just the lens. And so fast forward 2008, I got married, and my ex and I, we were heavily involved in ministry. And it was like, be the good wife, be the submissive, and just all the things that I learned in the church about being that love is sacrificial, that it's about putting others first, that love is Christ loved the church. And just like these different like images and perspectives about it, really like thinking of the self less and thinking of others more. And so that was.
I'm going to interrupt you really quick, and I'm sorry,
Yes.
but I do think it's important. How old were you when you got married?
I was 23.
Okay.
I was 23. He was 22. I met him at 18 and we started dating at 19.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And there's so much that I can say about even just that whole thing of just like thinking that my dream in life was to be married and to have kids and to have the life.
Do you think that was fostered by the church, by your parents, or was that like a dream that was individually yours from a small age, from being a little girl?
Yeah, I think it was probably on a subconscious level, because I don't remember my parents painting that picture that that's what you're supposed to do specifically, but I watched how my dad went and he worked to support my mom being a stay-at-home mom for us 4 kids. And even just thinking about the ways that it's constantly repeated, like my wedding day, people were asking us when we're going to start having kids. So it's almost just this underlying expectation was like, this is what you do. You court with a person, you save yourself for marriage, and then everything is it was the fairy tale, the happy ending perspective. Yeah. So when we got married in 2008, and I thought that was just going to be like the start of just this like amazing, perfect life, right? And then he's an entrepreneur. He was building businesses, and basically there's a lot of things that I will probably never know about what was happening in his life and in his world apart from me. There were a lot of different things that were happening, but what came to light in 2015 that was the pulling the rug out from under me moment was learning that he had been having an affair. And it was in that moment where I don't even remember even being really mad at him. I think that
Take us back a minute. Take us back. You have this ideal marriage, right?
Yeah.
Whether it was or it wasn't, there's this ideal of it. And so you've been married 7 years at this point.
Yeah.
Were you happily married?
Now I can say no, but I don't think then.
Okay. But at the time you thought so?
And here's the thing. It's so much about going back to even just like how much religion was it ruled so many aspects of my life, and just like the lens, it was always through the lens of like sacrifice and like hard times and struggle are the way of this life and this world. And so I have to I just need to surrender more, and I need to have more faith, and I need to trust more. And so there was constantly that, like, whenever there were challenges, I wasn't in a space where I even knew how to face it or like even acknowledge, oh, like this doesn't feel good right now. The fact that he disappeared for a few days and was like almost like zero communication with me.
Did that happen regularly?
Not like regularly. There were seasons of that.
But throughout the 7 years of marriage?
It was probably starting in around like 2012 to 2015. And then there was more that happened after 2015 too. But there would be moments where there would be like, he would be out of town and there would be such a lack of communication, like consistent communication that would happen. And then I would be reactive, or I'd feel insecure, I'd feel frustrated or whatever it was. And then, and of course, this is only just me going off of my memory with all of it. Like whenever I would confront it, like it would be dismissed. Oh, like it's really busy right now, or gaslighting kind of thing sometimes. And yeah, so then I would constantly I would deny my feelings about that. I would deny the fact that didn't feel good to me, the fact that wasn't feeling safe for me. I didn't even have the language to even put that into words for myself, to be able to say that, oh, like I'm not feeling safe right now and he's not trying to meet me where I'm at, or like that there's a disconnect and this is actually like not a healthy, good thing for fostering a closeness and relationship with a spouse kind of thing. And he had a lot of like business stuff going on too. So there was always this layer of it being related to business things. But then in the midst of all of that, then obviously then that's where the affair ended up happening, in the midst of those things too. And so there was never, so all of the ways that I think my body was knowing that something wasn't okay, but I didn't have the tools. I didn't know how to navigate it. And there's also this like element of feeling a lot of shame around the fact that he's my husband, and like that there's these different like challenges or like pain points. And so I was feeling insecure. And then like another layer of that I feel like I learned in the church is that that this is private.
I was going to say, did you talk to people about this? Were you able to share like this is going on, or that was something that like you kept, like you held that on your own?
I held it. There were probably elements of things with some people, but we were so immersed in ministry that like our community was church. Our circle was church, like our influence was church. Now, like he had started branching out because of his businesses that he was building. He had people outside of the church and circles outside of the church. But like for me, I was just like in this cocoon. And so that was the influencer, with the things that I did feel comfortable talking about. But for the most part, I felt really uncomfortable talking about it. I felt shame about it. I found myself like wanting to protect him, like wanting to protect his image, the way that people saw him. And I think that even though I didn't know it then, in part of like my journey in the last 10 years has been realizing that I was holding my own shame around not feeling good enough, or that I was inadequate in the relationship. And that felt really embarrassing to me.
Yeah.
To think about the breakdown being like somewhat on me for the ways that maybe I wasn't doing, like I wasn't good enough. I wasn't being a good enough wife. I wasn't being supportive enough, or whatever the things are. And so just keeping that like inside, I journaled a lot. I prayed a lot. I was constantly, I remember like begging God, and I still have the journal entries of praying, but then constantly feeling, oh, I'm in fear right now. And I shouldn't be in fear, because in church, it was like, you're either in fear or you're in faith. And if you're in fear, you can't be in faith, trusting God with things. So then there was this constant battle with fear, like wanting to fight it, wanting to deny it. Oh no, like that somehow I'm bad for feeling afraid. Somehow I'm bad for feeling afraid that what's going to happen. Like, why isn't my husband present? Why isn't he here for me? Or all those things. And so all of that was playing into then the moment where I learned about the infidelity.
Are you comfortable sharing that with us?
I think so. And if I do get emotional, it just is because it's just a part of my
story,
my journey, part of my story. Yeah. But learning, I don't even remember everything that happened when I learned about it. All I know is that I felt numb, and I felt shocked. And it's, I guess that's what it is. It's shocked, right? Of just disbelief. Wow, this like really is happening right now. And
did he tell you, or did you find out?
I feel like it was all at once happening, because it was a combination of finding out from someone and him also telling me, if I'm remembering right. Like it was like things were exploding all at once with the people that were involved. And I immediately went into, do we want this to work. Do we want to work on this or do we not want to work on this? It didn't even, this is how shut down I was to myself, like within myself, is that I couldn't identify what I wanted in that moment because I was so attached to, what do you want? That's what I was saying to him, is like, what do you want? Do you want our marriage to work? Do you want to work on this? Or are you like, is that what you want? Do you want that? And so as we were like navigating through some of those layers, I was reactive because at this point I still didn't have the tools of emotional intelligence and like having self-awareness about what I was feeling, what I was experiencing. And so in all the ways that probably for a really long time, I was shoving down the resentment that I was feeling, the pain that I was feeling, the anger that I was feeling towards him, in the ways that like all those times that he wasn't choosing me, like all the times that he would go and do his own thing and live a separate life from me. And all the times that I denied myself the permission to feel all the things that were probably really present for me in that moment, like that stuff started coming out sideways towards him. I was getting reactive about things. And at one point, and this is like the best gift that he could have given me, seriously, at one point, because of an emotional outburst I had towards him, he looked at me and said that I should go get help. And he was right, because I was a wreck and I was not grounded. I was so dysregulated. I just didn't know. And so he was right. And also we both needed support. We both needed guidance. We both needed to reach out and get some help from therapist, coach, whatever, to be able to work through the stuff that was going on that was leading us both to making the decisions that we were making. Right. And again, this is like another experience of the ways that I was shut down to myself, because I was literally like, okay, I'm going to do whatever I need to. I need to save my marriage. I want to save my marriage.
I just want to pause for a second in that, because I want to honor this version of you.
Yeah.
Because I actually didn't know you at this point. We met soon after, but at this exact point. And this woman who essentially hadn't necessarily been taught that she, as an individual in her own personhood, as a creation of God, of course, but like that you get to think for yourself, you get to feel for yourself, you get to make decisions for yourself. And if that is based on your spiritual like faith, that's your choice. But really trying to navigate all these emotions and the different directions that everything was going in.
Yeah.
Were your parents involved? Like, how was your family around this? Because your family was involved in the church as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Not all of my family, but most of my family. So my parents were worship leaders for like over 30 years. And then I followed in their footsteps. And when my ex and when we started dating, we got involved in youth ministry. We were youth leaders. We started a youth worship band, and then we transitioned into corporate worship, or as we want to say, the adult worship services. And we were worship leaders there for a few years before some of the different unravelings were happening in our relationship. Then he stepped down and I had moments of stepping back and stepping in and that sort of thing. So it was definitely always my parents and always me, and my siblings in and out through the years were involved in church. And the thing that's really interesting is that I don't necessarily remember really leaning on my family in that time and in that season.
Did you share with them?
I actually, as we're talking about this, I'm not sure that I ever did.
Okay. Like still now, like they still don't know.
Yeah, I don't even remember. I don't remember whether or not I would have shared it with them because of I think it was one of those things where if we were going to separate and we were going to look at divorcing, like, then I think that it would have been talked about. But because we were like trying to work it out, I just don't know that I went into details with them, it's so interesting to be talking about this right now in this podcast. And this might be the first time that I'm saying it out loud where people could be learning it. Like my family could be learning about this aspect of my journey, which is okay. But I was so protective of the information that I was sharing.
I think that's understandable too. I think that as you're saying this, Like the marriage is about two people, even though people will say it's about so many more. It is and it isn't, right? Like essentially it's the two people. So if you're trying to make this work, then I understand both ways, right? First of all, it doesn't matter if I understand or not, but I can see it from the perspective of keeping it private, of allowing you to the space to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I could have understood if you did need the support to share and to, I think that for different people, it goes different ways. And I think that either way is choosing A, what you know at the time, and B, what feels for you at the time.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I think too, because of the ways that I had experienced micro moments of sharing a frustrating situation. It's like talking about a fight that you have with your significant other and like venting to somebody about the bullshit of the conversation. And then there's resolution that happens between me and this person, but the way that this other person was left, they're like attached to the resentment or the frustration, like on my behalf kind of thing. And so I would experience like micro situations like that really caused me to feel really guarded because I was already experiencing enough like shame and my own inner judgment and turmoil. And the idea of opening myself up to receiving that judgment and criticism from the world around me was just like, that wasn't supportive. And that was the only thing that I felt like I would have experienced in the community and circle that I was in. And I'm not saying that as a criticism of the people that I was around, but it was the culture of it though.
Sure.
Just because of how it was all about rules and it was all about doing the right things. If there's a situation where somebody chooses to do the wrong thing, like step out of the marriage, people have opinions about that and they mean, but inevitably there's judgment there. So the thing that I remember, there was this experience. So I started working with a coach, with an emotional growth coach, facilitator, shadow work facilitator, which is how I met you. And when I started working with her, it was the wildest thing. So my ex would go with me. There were like a couple of sessions that we had done together, but ultimately I was the one that was like, I was in the work. I had started doing my work and he was not. But I remember one of the first couple of sessions that we did do together with Debbie, we're sitting there and it was this exercise where we were facing each other. And I was learning, this is so cringy. I was learning to take responsibility for what was mine and the fact that my reactions are my responsibility, which I can say this now and it's so obvious. I could not connect it, Elizabeth. It was ridiculous how like we would sit there facing each other where I would point out, I was supposed to say to him, when you, and it was like the data, the facts of an action that he did, something he said, something he did, right? Then owning my feelings. I literally kept trying to push on him and make him responsible for the way that I was feeling. It feels like the dumbest freaking thing that I was like, the irritation or the frustration that I was feeling about the ways that maybe, I don't know, something so simple as like, he said he was going to help me with something around the house and he didn't do it. And the way that I feel about that is, or the story I tell myself is that I'm unimportant or whatever. But I was totally projecting it onto him by saying, you make me feel unwanted. You make me feel like I struggled so hard with following that sounds like such a basic formula. But when I look back on that experience that I love that it happened. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'll save it. You go ahead.
I love that I had that experience to look back on because it just shows how shut down I was from understanding what was happening inside of me and the ways that I didn't know that actually understanding what was going on inside of me and taking ownership of my emotions and like giving myself permission to feel and experience those things and to learn how to hold someone responsible for what's theirs and me be responsible for what's mine. This was codependency. This was where I could see like so much codependency showing up, I guess, within me around the fact that I didn't know where he ended and where I began and vice versa. And so I couldn't separate it. It just was like, I couldn't connect it for a while. And I wasn't laughing at it. When I was sitting there, I was in tears about it because I was like, why can't I get this? I couldn't understand it. And it would take a couple of years for me to get to a place where I could finally acknowledge that all of the things that I have been that I've been shoving down and denying for 25 years of my life, because my emotions were too much. My expression of my emotions were too much. Like when I let myself feel my things, my ex would say, "You've got enough emotion for the both of us." And it's because it was always coming out sideways. Like I was always because I was constantly trying to shove it down. And it doesn't work. It just ends up coming out sideways and ugly and punitive and painful. And so that was that was a really eye-opening. And of course, it's only just been looking back that I can see, wow, how far I've come.
Yeah. And first, I want to say, I say this with love.
Yes.
I how do I word this in a positive? You say that it seemed like such a basic concept for you to be able to say, I feel, and not you make me feel when you do this and put it on. So many people have no idea that is not emotional intelligence. So many people, that is how they operate in their lives. And I'm not trying to be condemning in that. I just see it in conscious uncoupling when couples come to me, when individuals come, there is one of the main things of Catherine Woodward Thomas's work is taking responsibility for your feelings. I do not generally see the average human being with that skill set because I don't believe it's taught. I believe so much of our conditioning is you make me feel this way. You need to change so that I feel better or I feel different. We as a culture, I don't believe are taught to take responsibility for our feelings. And in that, we are taught to repress. We are taught that anger or sadness or rage or anything, shame are the bad emotions and that the other ones are the good emotions. And I think part of the point of the illicit feminine is those emotions aren't bad. They're not where you want to live. They're not where you want to stay, but they have a purpose. They're telling something isn't right. I'm disconnected from what God actually wants for me and what my higher self wants for me.
Yeah.
And so then in that, there's just, you transform. I was there. I was with you in the same boat. I don't mean I was there in the room with you, but I felt the same way. I thought that was how you make me feel this is your fault. That's just not how it works. We need to take responsibility. Nobody can make you feel anyway. And people will fight that claim to the end, but it's true. Once you learn the tools, once you understand that you are in charge of you. Now, this is a sensitive subject because you're learning this. Your husband you found out about the affair. There's a lot of the universe handing you hey, Jess, we're going to grow you real big. Here you go.
Yeah, seriously. And this is the thing that I feel gets so nuanced about this whole healing journey is that it's not wrong to hold people accountable for their actions, for what they say, for what they do. And the separation is that there's that piece and what did I contribute? Or what things can I own in the situation? And that's been part of my 10-year freaking journey. Even today, even after all of the work that I've done, I'm still in this space where I believe that healing is cyclical. I know we've talked about this, that we meet experiences that we had in the past, but it's with a new lens and a new perspective and coming from a new place. I can even see on a spiritual side of things today, the ways that church isn't all bad, but for a really long time, things got really rough and things got really bad to a point where I had to walk away and not be involved. And it's not to say that I have a desire to go back to church or to be involved in the capacities that I was in the past, because that's not the thing right now. For me, it's what an interesting journey it is to be able to see that I I was putting God and then all the people in the church, like I was treating it all like it was God. And so all of the opinions and all the viewpoints and all of the preaching and the teaching, whatever perspectives that any person in the church would bring into my life, there wasn't a separation for me between them being human and the divine. I was seeing that, oh, what they say is divinely inspired. And then that's where I was like, I was living my life. And so to see now that, oh, I know that the divine is like part of us. I believe that it is us. There is divinity. I could totally go super philosophical right now. But the fact that the church, the ways that, like how nuanced that is in my journey. And so coming back to the whole marriage and infidelity piece is like being able to see the ways that there were aspects of things that I was meant to take responsibility for myself. And there's also things that he was responsible for. And to be able to hold that all of that exists at the same time is like such a mindfuck.
It's such the duality piece. Again, it's one of the reasons I love, and it's Catherine Woodward Thomas, it's her work, but it's Margaret Paul's work, it's Marianne Williamson's work, it's a Course in Miracles work. It's the modality for transformation, right? It's the duality of having both, because nothing happens to us that we don't allow. And there's the piece of what is our part in it.
Yeah.
But at the time, it's not a blaming or shaming thing. It's, we don't know. So I guess because this is also like this is a controversial way to think. I'm faced with it when I'm with clients or with different people, because a lot of times when you're saying it's a mind fuck, we want to just blame it on somebody else. It's all their fault. And it's just never, ever true. And it doesn't even have to go down to a fault piece. It can go down to Catherine. And because in conscious uncoupling, infidelity does happen on both sides and it can go both ways. And in my work, I have no judgment whether on either way. I work with people who have had affairs. I work with people who are like had affairs, the one that felt betrayed by an affair, and it all is wounding, right? Like the betrayed is wounded, the betrayer is wounded. It's all about really working with whatever it is that caused these things. My question to you is, Catherine puts it in I think a more manageable way, is like, what was your 3%? Like, what was and in that, it's not even like you did something wrong. It's just, for me and what you shared, like when we deny our emotions, that's a part. When we don't listen to our intuition, that's a part. Those are things we were responsible for. Now, we may not have known it at the time. So I'm curious because as you shared, this has been part of your learning, right? This has been like a transformational piece for you. So share with us, what have you come to the realization of that was your part in this?
So I think that having a huge lack of self-awareness, and in that huge lack of self-awareness, like I was so shut down to really internally what my needs were, how I was feeling about anything. Like there was so much codependency and so much people pleasing. I was living my entire life through those lenses. And so those were probably the pieces that I contributed to the breakdown of all of it, because I made him the bad guy a lot. Like even before the news of the affair happened, I was constantly making him the bad guy because I was working so hard to try and be the good girl. Like and I experienced this in the church too, where there was almost this like being put on a pedestal sort of, because when we ended up parting ways with the church, there was this sense that I had that they had me on the pedestal of being this like really great, like Christian woman. And it's not to say that I wasn't great, right? But like they had me on this pedestal, and then they held him in this light of being less than, like between the two of us. And one of the things that when we parted ways with the church, one of the things that had come back to us about us leaving is that he didn't agree with church leadership and Jessica followed. And that's not what happened. But that was just how much they had, like, they didn't hold us as equals. In my perspective, it was this, Jessica is this amazing woman, and he's this, basically like this dude that's just fucking up. And he doesn't want to restore. He doesn't want to like work to make it better. And what was actually happening in the process was like, we both were trying our best, because ultimately we were choosing to try and work things out. And so I believe that we both were trying our best. And the ways in which he was going about it, it was the religious dogma of, you got to do it a certain way. This is the path, stay in your fucking lane. And if you don't stay in your lane, then you're doing it wrong. And then there's shame. So I feel like that when that happened, I was the one that said, enough, I'm done. We're done. We can't keep doing this. Because my ex, he was very much like defeated when he was confronted about the ways that he wasn't doing it right. Like he felt defeated. He felt ostracized. He wasn't saying these things. It's what I was sensing. And I literally was like, enough is enough. We're done. This is not supportive in helping us to restore. Like, I feel like there is something that is being missed right now, like the heart of what's actually going on. And the church is probably doing their best with the tools that they were given. And this is gross. It just got it. I can say it now. It felt really frustrating, irritating. And so I was actually the one that said, we're done. But then for that to come back to say, oh, he didn't agree with church leadership and I was the one that followed, I was just like, oh my God, it couldn't be further from the truth. But it does paint that picture again of the ways that they had me on a pedestal as being this good girl. And it makes sense to me that they had that perception of me, because that's the way I lived my life. I lived my life doing everything that I could to be seen as good in the eyes of everyone around me. And what ended up happening, though, is that I didn't have a sense of self in my marriage. I didn't use my voice. I didn't communicate my needs. I didn't have the vocabulary to be able to just communicate honestly about what it was that was important to me, or I didn't know. And so and I also feel like the same was true for him. We both, I think, were doing the best that we could, even though it was shit, even though it's not cool that an affair happened, and that's just crappy. It is. But the fact that there was just I know that was a long-winded answer to come back to. That was my 3%, is that I just had such a lack of connection with myself. And so then, of course, it's going to fall apart at some point, right? Like at some point, what I feel like happened was it just wasn't manageable anymore, in the way that it wasn't manageable for him and whatever things he was feeling and experiencing. And if he was feeling less than or not being seen and heard, and I was feeling the same things in different ways in the relationship, and neither of us had the freaking tools. And the advice that we were being given was not helpful to work through it.
And just give us an example of what was some advice that wasn't helpful, because I think that this is a very common way this goes within certain structures.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing that I remember he would say that he would get advice on a lot was, just choose her. Just choose her every day. Just choose her. And making it sound so simple.
It's almost, what the fuck does that mean? Like,
right.
Now there's some people out there who are like, that's obvious. Where with me, I'm like, what the fuck? What?
I know.
Especially from that viewpoint of where someone is emotionally on their journey.
Yeah.
I think that would be some almost like wah, wah, wah,
right.
Wah.
Yes. Yes. And it's been interesting in the last year, me and my ex have reconnected and had some conversations around some of the stuff that had happened over the breakdown of the few years that led to the divorce. And it was really fascinating, I think, for both of us to share our perspectives, because our experiences were so individual.
Sure.
And so one of the things that I remember learning so much was just about doing what I could to like please him. Okay, so this is a little bit of a tangent, but like on a sexual level, I remember learning that it's really common that the man experiences the pleasure, but that like the woman doesn't. And the way that I translated some of the information that was given to me, because of course,
You mean within your church structure?
yes,
Okay.
I was like shocked at, wait a minute, pleasure isn't just like across the board for both the man and the woman. And I remember it being reflected back to me that, oh yeah, it's pretty common. And what I do is like his pleasure is a priority and like that mine is like secondary. And I mean, now I feel shocked about this information, but I didn't know anything because I didn't grow up learning anything about sexuality. All I knew is that you're supposed to wait. You're supposed to wait until you meet your person and then you can do the deed. And then it's all supposed to be like really beautiful and wonderful, like right off the freaking bat. And so imagine like how there was so much shit. And this is like probably a conversation for another day.
We're totally doing another episode on this because I think it's so like the sexual piece. This is why like betrayals, this is why self-abandonment, this is why porn, this is why so many things happen because we aren't taught like all these things about sex that are so important. And I do think that goes, it's just interesting when you said like you were taught to wait, like that was what you were taught. It's a horrible foundation for someone's sexuality. And I don't mean, I know that there's well-meaning behind it.
Sure.
It's just the reality of it, I think. And for some people that they can figure that out, but there's so many others where that was damaging. That was damaging information.
And I think it's from a standpoint of, yes. And I think it's from the standpoint, the same thing about our emotions.
Huge.
It's the repression of it, right? If I'm constantly being told that it's wrong or that it's bad to feel certain emotions or that I shouldn't, or growing up having a belief that fear is a negative emotion, that's like really bad. Don't feel fear. Don't feel fear. Like how much I was constantly in a state of freaking fear. It's don't think about watermelon. You're going to fucking think about watermelon. So, but thinking about how repetition of things, right? Like we live in this human experience and then we're constantly having experiences that are reflecting back to us. And so then the same is true around like sexuality then too, of, oh, like being promiscuous, being like a really negative thing. And I understand that there's pain that can be associated with getting involved and having sexual experiences. I understand that there are certain pain points with all of it, right? There's a lot of nuances here with it. 100%. But when on a fundamental level, you are wrong for having sexual curiosities and that there's no fucking place to talk about it. There's no place to in relation to the church, like in being immersed in the church in the way that I was. And I don't know, maybe it does go outside of the church too. I don't know. But my experience in the church was just very much, no, you wait till you're married. And so then like experiencing even just at 15, 16 years old, I couldn't wait to date. And yet then I would start to date. And then there would start to be like some physical things that would happen. And of course, there's just hormonal shit. It's real. And then I would feel guilt and I'd feel shame for kissing a boy or getting handsy or something. Like I would think that I was this awful person. And so then I would end up ending the dating the guy kind of thing. And so I never really had boyfriends in high school. I did like for short times, but then I would get freaked out because I'm literally like, oh my gosh, I'm a bad girl. I'm a bad person. I'm making out with this boy and these things are happening. So then fast forward to premarital counseling and reading books about the sacred union of marriage and the sanctity of marriage and the marriage bed and all of those things. When I think that I've been waiting all of this time to then have this glorious sexual experience, and then guess what? It's not.
So it was not like your wedding night. Had he waited as well?
Yeah, we both had waited. Yeah.
So the wedding night is not all that you had wanted.
Okay, it was great. It was great to not have any barriers, right? Like when there were like
to do whatever you want.
Drive and all of a sudden it's, oh, we don't have to stop. Like we can do our thing, whatever. And so that part of it was great. And it's not to say that sex wasn't sad, but I think because of how much I didn't know.
Of course.
I just
Did
didn't.
you know your own body at this time? Are you allowed to masturbate within your church's
I mean,
beliefs?
yeah, and that was also, I feel like that was also a negative stigma. I don't remember ever learning anything about any of this or having a space to talk about it with anybody. Like understanding that being in the exploration of my body, understanding my body is actually a really beautiful thing when you then go into partnership with someone, because then you can actually
Yeah.
communicate and be in the exploration of it with someone, of figuring it out. And for me, sorry, that was really loud. For me, I just didn't know. And so
You wouldn't.
and so then this is the thing that was wild about it, is that I didn't know how to be in the exploration with him about myself and about my own pleasure. And so then I experienced embarrassment, and it was all internal. I don't know that I ever expressed it to him, but I remember feeling a lot of embarrassment about the fact that there were aspects of things that were great, but ultimately like I would feel guilty about doing certain things and exploring certain things. And there was some shame around things too, right? And then the ways that and I can only put language around this now, but I didn't know it then, that I didn't know my body. And I didn't understand that, oh, it's actually, like, I didn't feel safe. And so there's no way that I could have ever explored things within our marriage and the ways that I have understandings of those things now. There's no way I could have explored it because I didn't know. I didn't have the tools to. So that's where it was like normalizing like the shittiness of it. And it wasn't all bad, but just internally for myself, like feeling guilty a lot for the sexual things that we would do, or the ways that I wasn't experiencing pleasure or whatever it was. And so then when the affair happened, that was a blow for the part of me that was already feeling inadequate, that was already feeling like it like validated that wound of just, yeah, you're not enough. You're not enough as you are. And I think that there's that weird thing of, yeah, he made his choices, but there's that story, which I would imagine is like really common with infidelity, of something that I did wrong to cause him to go outside of the marriage. And if I could have been better, if I could have done, then maybe it wouldn't have happened. But even still in all of that, like it's only just been probably in the last 2.5 years of my life. I'm 40 years old. So at 37, 38 years old is like really the first time of really tapping in and starting to open myself up to learning about, okay, what does it mean to be in my pleasure as a woman? What does it mean to understand and know my body? And the idea of sharing that with another person, I didn't even know that shit existed until the last few years. And which it's okay. Like it's all part of my journey, all part of my experience. But like the fact that that is the stigma though, that I grew up in, and the level of shame that I held around my own sexual expression and my own emotional expression, and the ways that like repressing those things was like so detrimental in my marriage, in my relationship.
Yeah.
And yet it's also like, it's the medicine in this journey that I'm on now. So I feel really grateful to be able to learn and grow through these experiences. And I think also to have compassion for those parts of me that didn't know. That's been part of this healing journey too, is in the ways that I would normally judge those younger versions for not being the wife that he needed or deserved or whatever it was, like to learn to give acceptance and love to that part, because she could only function from a place of what she knew. And it's all the information that she had. And so she did her best in that moment. And it's okay that happened. the way that it did. And it's okay that I'm in the place that I'm at now in my life, where I do have a different perspective than what I was raised with. And it doesn't make it, I guess the whole thing is like not invalidating those experiences, but also there's things that don't resonate for me in the ways that they did then.
100%, because I think that's growth, right? It's the evolution of our emotional awareness, of our spirituality, and of our consciousness.
Mm.
So I have a proposal for you, because I feel like, okay, we've talked about religious dogma. We have talked about infidelity. We've talked about shame. We've talked about self-abandonment. We've talked about sex to a degree. And I would like to actually do a part 2 of this, because I feel like I would like to delve a little bit more into some different areas and then come out from the transformational side, like the things that did help you transform and the story that you've been living since your divorce, the life that you've created for yourself. And I think that our listeners would love to hear those pieces, because this was so important and I don't want to miss out on this or those pieces. So can we get another time? And we're going to do a version part 2 of this.
Yes.
I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough for opening up, for being real, being raw, being in your power and your graceful glory. I just love you so fucking much. I really do.
And I love you too. And I'm so grateful for this space to be able to share. This is my first time, my first time of sharing my story and my journey in this way. I cannot think of a better person to be sharing space with and having this experience with than you. How beautiful, how surreal that we've been on this journey for probably like 8 or so years. I'm guessing that we probably met around like 2017-ish, because that's where I was increasing my involvement with the organization that we met through.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
yeah, so to think about the last 8 years and how far we both have come in our journey, and the ways that, whether we're in connection or there's months that go between us being connected, and yet there's this aspect of just, I don't know, it's a soulful thing for me to be connected with you and to be sharing this. So thank you.
Absolutely. We definitely had a soul contract that I think will span time, which I'm forever grateful for. We will be doing a part 2, and just thank you for listening. And yeah, can't wait for the next time we get to continue this conversation.
Thank you.